Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. It is Thursday. I'm Peter Martin. Thank you very much for joining us on our PLZ Soccer show. In the studio with me on this Thursday, it's Alan Rough, it's Tam Cowan, and we're looking back at last night's fixtures. Celtic demolished Hearts by 5-0 down at Rugby Park. It was Kilmarnock defeating Rangers by 2-1. Is that the defining moment? Alan Rough, is the league over?
You always do this to me, put me on the spot right away. On paper it looks as if Celtic are the far better side just now. Rangers have been struggling since January. 36 points still to play for. I'm sure Rangers won't give up, but I think Celtic have now got their heads in front and I can't see them throwing it away.
So the league is over, Ruffy. After 8 years of finally trying to drag a line out of you, I have to go back to you. Is the league over?
Well, as I say, in this moment in time, I would say yeah.
Tam?
Well, Neil Lennon can't say it, of course. Steven Gerrard can't say it. He's saying he's still clinging on to a bit of hope and it's going to be tough. Roughie can't say it unless you've got both hands round about his throat. But I will say, yes, of course it's over. Rangers fans, I know, pals of mine, they think it's over as well. And the bottom line is, though, I tell these guys to relax. My wee pal Davey, who's a fervent Rangers fan, I was speaking to him by text this morning, and I said, look, it's next year's the biggie. Celtic have already done 9 in a row. Rangers have already done 9 in a row. It doesn't matter. That's trivial. It's next year. That's where you need to hope as a Rangers fan that you've got everything in place for a proper concerted effort and a tilt at the title. But I must say, Peter, you know, it's not going to be tasty for the Rangers fans if Celtic manage this quadruple treble. That's really then just starting to rub it in. So all the focus now, I would imagine, even when it comes to team selection, maybe in league games before the next round of the Scottish Cup, I think the focus now for Rangers has got to be on that trophy. The oldest and best competition in the world, the Scottish Cup. And because if Steven Gerrard could finish runner-up to Celtic and get that elusive trophy in the cabinet, suddenly it's no bad with a view to next season. But we're having a wee chuckle there before we come on. Neil Lennon recently, he was saying, of course, McDermott Park's a difficult place to go. The aggregate score 30-0 the last 9 games against St Johnstone. And he's saying last night, you know, the league's not over. It is. He's at the madam. Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Yeah, just in case you're wondering, he did say it.
Well, if you mean they're going to get complacent, then I doubt it very much. They'll maybe want to try and increase it if they can. I think that's the mode of thinking here at the minute, you know, no complacency. Don't take anything for granted. You know, let's just, you know, you're fresh, you know, you're fit, you look hungry. Let's stay that way.
Well, they were all chipping in with the goals, Ruffy. Hearts just were not at the races. 5 goals, none of them from the strikers.
No, it was a fantastic set of play. You know, every goal he scored was attacking at pace, you know, most of them from their own side of the park, you know, and the passes were just absolutely superb. And as you say, if you win 5-0 and your strikers don't score goals, it says a lot about how well you're playing.
Yeah, well, I mentioned at the start of the season, your eyes don't deceive you. If you can be honest as a pundit and you can look and call it, I thought Celtic had too strong a squad. I thought they'd win it by 6. They're now 10 points clear with 16 goals better off. And last year at a similar time, you know, they just were relentless in their march towards the title. I do not see them slipping up. I think it will be over. How early it'll be over is entirely, as Tam mentioned there, up to Rangers. I was down there, obviously, at Rugby Park to see Kilmarnock against Rangers. I thought Rangers might edge it. I thought it was going to be tough, but scored a worldie to start it off, and then from there it's almost as if the fear kicked in at second half.
Absolutely, the fear. Maybe key players a wee bit off the boil. I don't know what's happened to Alfredo Morelos. He's He's been a man that's been making front page headlines for a variety of reasons, and obviously not particularly his fault, of course, but I think a Rangers fan would love to see his name back in the back pages, and for the right reasons, because when I saw the dive last night that he made at Rugby Park, and before we've got any Rangers fans shouting at me just now, I'm going to come on to a Motherwell diver in just a minute, but the one for Morelos, see, when I see players of that quality, Peter, I mean, I could certainly never be accused of being a critic of Alfredo Morelos. I'm blowing plenty of smoke up his backside this season. He's a smashing player, he's a deadly goal scorer. He has maybe gone off a wee bit to boil now, but there's no need for guys like that to dive.
Yeah.
You know, leave that to boys of lesser ability who have to try and gain an advantage by cheating. He doesn't need to do that. And last night, I'm sorry, Motherwell put out the tweet last night about how 10-man Motherwell lose 2-1 to St Johnstone, and that made it sound as if, oh, we were dead unlucky. If we'd have only not been cruelly had a man sent off, but it was nothing of the kind. It was Manzinga who had clearly dived. It was as if he was having his first ever go at a dive. It's as if he was the worst actor in the world. It's as if he was showing his pals what players who dive do. You know, it was hideous. And if that has ultimately cost us at St Johnstone, and psychologically, I mean, we're still up there with Aberdeen, we're levelling points, but psychologically that defeat allowed Aberdeen to go third when you look at that league table, and you start looking at the teams behind us, including, I must say, St Johnstone, who have made a quite miraculous recovery. And there is a lesson for any club that tries the knee-jerk reaction when a manager has a few bad results. There was a lot of folk, Tommy Wright having been spoken of highly for all sorts of jobs, including Northern Ireland, suddenly they're thinking he's going to get his jotters. But the club stuck by him, and the results are coming back.
Yeah, and amazingly, you know, referees, we always say they've got to try and call every incident as they see it, Roughie. You know, the one thing that stuck in my head last night was Morelos, as he said, you know, Tam mentioned there. It's a blatant dive. John Beaton books him. And then the second one, I actually thought he'd a good shout for a penalty, but the referee just waved it away. I actually looked and I thought, that's a penalty. And he waved it away, and I thought to myself, psychologically, he's looking at Morelos and saying, he's trying to con me.
The boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
The referees, I remember speaking to a referee, and referees, obviously having refereed most of their career in Scotland, know the guys that are going to do it. No, they actually sit in the dressing room before the game talking about it. I wonder what he'll get up to the day, or I wonder it will be him. Yeah. So the people that do it consistently, hell mend them, you know, because it puts the referee in a spot of, is he at it, is he not at it?
And you know what, Peter, this is certainly not a plug. I know you like a jab at me for mentions of other broadcasters out there. But you would have watched it, and I would urge folk to get it in the catch-up of that. Big Stephen Thompson and Leanne Crichton recently did a programme about refereeing. They went, they did is it the bleep test they call it, with the referees and everything. And as a lot of the referees, they weren't trying to really outline this, but you could read between the lines. What their message they were getting across as, hey, it isn't a matter of us turning up at a ground 10 minutes before kick-off, trying to waste everybody's day and then going home again with a grander son in our Sky Pocket. You know, it's our Sky Pocket. Cockney rhyming slang was never my strong point.
But you managed to get Sky in as well.
Yes, you're just looking right at me like you're Shireen Nanjiani. But anyway, there's so much more to it than that. And I've always had sympathy because my mate got high up in the refereeing world, and he opened my eyes to so much in that side of football, and I would urge folk to kind of watch that, and then maybe they would cut the refs some slack.
Yeah, well, the one thing about it, you know, I think there was an air of resignation among the Rangers fans, Roughie, because in the second half, once they started to get corner after corner, you could sense Kelly thought, this game we can get back into it. They got an equaliser, and then the Rangers back line just bullied by Eamon Brophy, who ends up scoring the winner.
It was a replica of the goal they lost at Hamilton, and Golson again was the culprit. You know, got bullied out of the ball with the striker. But Barry said that on the show. You know, there are players in that Rangers team who are now experienced what it's like to handle pressure at a massive club. You know, and with the massive things that are going on with competing against Celtic, and it definitely looks as if 2 or 3 of them aren't up to the mark.
Yeah, and fair play to the manager. He didn't shirk it. He just said they've bottled it.
Second half performance, never coped or handled the heat or the pressure. Never played like a team that was trying to fight to remain in a title race, and a team that was trying to compete to come away from here with 3 points to stay as close as we can.
And the one thing about footballers is they can always sense when there's a vulnerability or a weakness in a side, and they go for the jugular. And Alec Dyer says his players fully realise that.
Yeah, a little bit. Only because I knew if we stepped up that we could cause them problems, and ask questions of them and show how good they were. We kept putting balls in the box and playing at a good tempo. I thought we could cause them problems, yeah.
So here's how it looks before the split for Celtic and Rangers. And when you consider how similar it is to last season, it's just absolutely incredible, Roughie. Celtic were relentless last season when they got to the post-split. And as you can see there, they just marched on. They didn't slip up until eventually, the league was won and Rangers managed to get what was a meaningless Old Firm victory last season. Rangers now are looking at this and thinking, how do they try and keep pace and keep it interesting when really a lot of people are now thinking the league's over, it's all about looking at cups?
Yeah, but you're looking at the fixtures, and if you're a Rangers supporter, you're looking at the Celtic fixture list. I'm talking about before the next Rangers game, because Steven Gerrard's already come out and said, look, there's 6 points up for grabs at the Rangers-Celtic games. I thought Rangers, up until the Celtic game, had the easiest of the fixtures, but Celtic are just railroading everybody. And obviously, at the weekend, Aberdeen is, for me, the game that Rangers supporters will look at and go, well, maybe there's a wee chance up there. So if Celtic go up there and steamroll Aberdeen, for me, it is done and dusted.
And I'll tell you what, you might be saying that his players are bottlers, but it's great to see that an iconic figure like Steven Gerrard doesn't ever let personal standards slip. He looked absolutely immaculate in that interview.
Yeah.
It was probably a very blustery night last night. He'd clearly got his personal stylist in after the final whistle, before the post-match interviews, and the hair is nothing short of immaculate. So good on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you consider, Tam, you had a full maybe 24 hours to look immaculate for this show, and you turn up in a hoodie, who'd have thought? Anyway, on that note, by the way, if you are tuning into Peter and Roughie's football show next week, don't tune in on the basis that you think if Celtic do win up at Pittodrie that you'll get any kind of definitive opinion from Roughie. This is just a padding exercise until he manages to flannel it all the way through until it's mathematically impossible for anyone to win the league. As far as Aberdeen against Celtic, I love the attitude from Tuesday night from Curtis Main, who's basically saying, by the way, I played well, I scored, I set up one, I better be playing on Sunday or Saturday.
I'll tell you what, he was that sort of player at Motherwell. When he was on, he was really on, Peter, and he went through good wee spurts like that, but then you would get the barren spell. He's had his barren spell at Aberdeen, of that there's no doubt. He's come in there, and good on him for fighting his corner, and maybe Big Sam has gone off the boil a wee bit, and Curtis is your man, and he might actually bang a few goals in. And even for Motherwell fans, even some like myself, who are having a wee sly grin at his lack of goals up at Aberdeen, he could yet be the guy that fires him into Europe, So, I was always a big fan of his.
Yeah. Elsewhere last night, Roughie, your old side Hibs dismantled Ross County. And again, McNulty, he's proved to be a really good signing for them. He's scoring goals regularly.
Yeah, and they have now got a side who can get two strikers on the park. And I think that always says something about a team who are confident, particularly at home. I said yesterday, I'm a wee bit worried now about Ross County slipping down into that danger zone. I think they will be caught up in it. They are good at home, there's no doubt about that, but I think away from home they're beginning to struggle.
Are you thinking they're going down, Roughie?
I think they'll be in the three that we will decide of who's going down.
What do when he's saying, they've got two strikers now up front. Recently Celtic have been going with the two up front, and you think, big wow. If you want to get the plug in for the podcast, Peter, when we were talking to Andy Cameron, he was talking about one of the earliest teams he remembers, and he rattled off the forward line, and it was 5 names.
Yeah.
If only we could bring that back. See, the more I hear about a holding midfielder that just sounds negative, or a player that's in there to protect the back four. When did a back four need protection? That was their job. All this nonsense, it's just all about, effectively sitting back, parking the bus. Think about it up front. Bring back the old 2-3-5 formation. It would be stupendous.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why they have 2 holding midfielders is because the 2 central defenders are minging. Anyway, on that note, just thought I'd enlighten you all of that one. Livingston against St Mirren. We thought they'd win. You know, suddenly at the bottom end, when you think somebody's showing a little spark, you know, quickly, the results are there for all to see. Hearts in the mire. I still think they'll escape, but the games are running out, Roughie, and I'm wondering when it's going to kick in. Jim Goodwin will be pulling his hair out thinking, where are we going to take these points here and there to try and get out of this?
Well, I think the bottom 4 teams, the managers will be seriously looking at the fixture list and hope that they have 3 games bump against the teams that they're up against, because these are the teams that will decide, these are the games that will decide whether they're going down or what's going to happen. So I think it's important. Some of them will have a run of easier games than others, but you've still got to win them.
I'll tell you one thing, Tam, St Johnstone managed to get the victory, albeit late, against Motherwell. I'm going to stop predicting Motherwell away from home. I can't work them out. Yeah,
that was a real missed opportunity, I thought, for us last night. But by all accounts, as you know, I was up in a stormy, wintry yet absolutely beautiful Glencoe. But my mates who were at the game last night basically said that we were dire. And I can't forgive Manzinga for getting sent off for diving, because I'm the sort of support that absolutely hates it. And I'm willing to mention it, unlike a lot of fans, when it does involve somebody in their own team, because fans can be very, very blinkered on the subject of simulation. It happens against them, you create hell, you're shouting, you're jumping about like a Tasmanian devil. One of your own players does it, you get a penalty, you enjoy a wee snigger and you get on with it. But I absolutely abhor it, because the referees have a hard enough job, and I hope Motherwell will take action against them. Yeah, the other thing about it, I mean, it's all right, we all want to see it stamped out, Roughie, but let's be honest about it. And you know, even from being a young reporter, slightly wet behind the ears, and then eventually you listen over the years to experienced players telling you, seasoned pros, on whether it be a radio show or whether it be television or in print. Quite simply, players are there to actually take the letter of the law to the nth degree. They want the referee to make the decision. Their job is by hook or by crook, by cheating or in an orderly manner, to try and win the game. If they cheat and they get away with it, all well and good.
Yeah, for me, it's a self-belief in their own ability, that they have the ability to possibly go round the goalkeeper, take the goalkeeper on. They'd rather go in and leave a leg dangling and leave the referee to make a decision. And I hate going back 30 odd years ago, but if you looked at these kind of players, the ability to take the ball round somebody rather than go for the penalty, I would say the majority of them go for goal rather than take the easy way out.
Roughie, let's not rewrite history on this, by the way, because that every player from every generation worked out a way to cheat.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say there was a lot of diving. I wouldn't say there was as much.
Quantify that and turn around and say, you know, everybody was working on the Marquess of Queensberry rules.
I'm not saying never. I'm only giving an example of one-on-one. And the one-on-one one's the one I remember clearly. That I could guarantee you, just say we were playing Rangers and it was Derek Johnson and there was a through ball and I was coming out to dive at his feet, I could guarantee you he would jump over the top of me.
Yeah, what about John McDonald?
Oh, I've never played with John McDonald.
I'll tell you the one guy.
Sorry, Solo. He's my friend, but I have to mention him.
One guy we do not include in this is Pat Nevin. I'll be forever astonished that a statue hasn't been put up in honour of Pat Nevin, because when he was with Kilmarnock, Motherwell, we went down there for a midweek game, and a guy we know all too well, Big John Rowbottom, was refereeing. Pat went down, it was a fair challenge, but it looked as if it had the potential to be a penalty. And Pat ran over to John Rowbottom, who had awarded the spot kick, and says he got the ball cleanly, it was me, and just a wee bit of impact, a slip or whatever, and he came in, whoever the Motherwell defender was at the time, and Pat actually did his own team out of a penalty which had been awarded, and I thought that was magnificent. Another penalty incident I just reminded myself of that John Rowbottom was involved in as well, which showed that he was a class act when he was at the top of his game refereeing. He was the first ever guy I saw playing advantage after awarding a penalty. It was up at the now top school end at Fir Park, and Tommy Coyne was involved, whether he got brought down or he in fact scored, but it was a clear penalty to Motherwell, and John Rowbottom just took a breath before pointing to the spot, played on, and indeed it was, Tommy Coyne scored, and we ran up the other end of the park, and it was just a lovely wee moment. Now, he would have called it back, but it was just, I think, when that tweak to maybe the rule book had just come into play, and I'm sure it would have caused a fair bit of consternation.
One of the masters of getting a penalty, and it was one of our guests just recently, was Frank McGarvey. Frank had the ability to get tripped 30 yards outside the box and end up in the box.
Listen, I have to say to each and every one of you, thank you very much for subscribing to our channel. You can comment right across our social media as well. Let's not forget at PLZ Soccer on Twitter, Facebook, Monday to Friday. You can join us. And of course, thank you to everyone subscribing to our PLZ Soccer channel, because we really appreciate it. Share it with everyone who can get YouTube. And incidentally, if you go on the Sky Network and go down to apps, click the apps, there's YouTube, put in PLZ Soccer, you'll get all our programmes. And let's not forget, tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock, I think it is, we release our latest podcast. If you thought Andy Ritchie was good, you're in for a treat, because we've brought the entertainer Andy Cowan, big Rangers fan, and over and above that, a man who's had a rich career in variety, and some of the stories, and we get him singing Ali's Tartan Army. Who'd have thought? Join us for the podcast across all the audio platforms, and you can get it on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. So, with all that said, thank you very much to Roughie. Thanks to Tam Cowan. And from myself, Peter Martin, thank you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.